The Atlanta Temple is reading from Canto 7, Chapter 10. And the last verse that I spoke on.
7.10.6.
What?
7.10.6.
Yeah, that was the last one that I spoke on.
Yes, ma'am.
So let's cover 7 and maybe also 8, so we're up to speed with them. Seven, 10, 7. If you have your little handheld device and want to look at the verse. Oh, he's going to put it on the screen. All right. Not working. So I'll just read the translation. Or that's the Sanskrit. Yadi dasyasi me kaman varang swam varadarshabaha kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vrane varam. O my Lord, Prahlad to Lord Nrsingadev, best of the giver of benediction, if you at all want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray from your Lordship, within the core of my heart, there be no material desires. Purport. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us how to pray for benediction from the Lord. He said, Nadanam, najanam, na sundarim kavitam ba jagadisha kama ye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir ahituki twayi. O my Lord, I do not want from you any amount of wealth, nor many followers, nor a beautiful wife, for these are all materialistic desires. But if I have to ask you for any benediction, I pray that in whatever form of life I may take my birth, under any circumstances, I will not be bereft of your transcendental devotional service. Devotees are always on the positive platform, in contrast to the Mayavadis who want to make everything impersonal or void. One cannot remain void, sunyavadi. Rather, one must possess something. Therefore, the devotee on the positive side wants to possess something, and this possession is very nicely described by Prahlad Maharaj, who says, if I must take some benediction from you, I pray that within the core of my heart there may be no material desires. The desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all material. An important distinction, spiritual and material, simple, that which is in relation to the Supreme, specifically in relation to service of the Supreme, is spiritual, and that which is not seen as in relation to the Supreme, that's material or materialistic. Yesterday I had a discussion with someone about a very common question, how to balance material and spiritual. And I gave my standard answer. I don't like the word balance. I like the word alignment. We align everything, body, mind, words, with one thing. And if it's out of alignment, then it's painful. And if it's in alignment, it's not balance, it's alignment. And alignment means everything for Krishna. And then it becomes time management, not balance. Balance is I got 1 foot in this boat and 1 foot in that boat, and I'm trying to cross the river. Jagadananda Pandit advises against that. guess what? You can end up in the river. So both feet in one boat, not balance, and then alignment with the personality of Godhead. So that's a nice way of describing what's here. So what's here is no material desire, materialistic desire. Of course, the rendering of the Shikshastika verse is a little different, but it conforms or it matches the message of the verse. Because already Prahlad Maharaj has said, like in multiple ways, in multiple verses, there's nothing else between us. The between us means I do this so I can get that, and you're offering me that, and I'm saying, please don't offer that, because there's nothing in our relationship other than one thing. You're the master, I'm the servant, and there's not a third thing. There's nothing else between us besides this one thing. Going back a few verses, Prahlad said to Lord Nrsingadev, you sent me here, didn't say from where, but you sent me here from Vaikuntha to teach the way of pure devotional service. So I'm good, and that's what I'm doing, teaching the way. So whether it's to my classmates or to my father or in my relationship with you, which is the essence of all other relationships, please don't ask me for something else. So here there isn't anything else. If you insist, then please take away anything else. Although there isn't anything else. But an important teaching in devotional life is no complacency. Supposing one becomes blessed by Krishna with bhakti para-isha anubhav, that some genuine feelings, transcendental feelings towards para-isha. And the bell rings. That's it. That's not it. It's the position is a position of ongoing submission. It's okay, I'm okay. Ongoing submission means no complacency. So Prahlad Maharaj is already there. The bell rang. Thank you. Just set it down. Just set it down. That means he's in the position where he has no material desire, and the submission is ongoing. Now, he could have said many things. Please keep me in your service. He could have said, please always give me the association of Narada Muni. He says that elsewhere. Here specifically is, please protect me. So it's ongoing submission. To get there is submission, and to stay there is ongoing submission. There's not complacency. Which makes sense, because if there's love, then how can there be complacency? But supposing it's not love, supposing it's vidhis, and then there's submission, so I can get one of four things, as Krishna says, 4 types of pious people render service unto me. And the topmost of them is one who's in knowledge, and with knowledge, naturally following knowledge is vairagya. But is it possible? Well, there's many things that could happen when one becomes a very advanced devotee, such as offense. That's very problematic. But becoming complacent. Now, that's not going to happen when bhakti is there, because bhakti is the force that drives one forward further and further and further. And how far is further? That there's sky's the limit, or there is no, even the sky has a limit. There's no limit. Further and further. With that understanding, one can be either enthused, appropriately enthused. This is it. I found the path to the stage of perfection that knows no limit. Or one can be discouraged. Oh, it's too high. And I'm unqualified, and there's that sentiment that's sometimes expressed or sometimes maybe felt by oneself. So far away. And humility is good. It's true, it's so far away. And on the other hand, the extending hand of Krishna to his devotee here, it's Prahlad is having a personal visit with Lord Nrsingadev. And Lord Nrsingadev places his hand upon Prahlad's head, freeing him altogether as if there was some contamination, freeing him from all contamination, and enables him to speak these wonderful prayers. So the point is ongoing submission. And so that is, saying the same thing a different way, bhakti is our protection. Bhakti meaning that is the anyabhilasha shunyam, jnana karma janavratam, anukulyena krishnanushilanam, etc. That's protection. So making, like, there's a phrase these days, I'm also not a fan of the idea of affirmations. You know, where's the ongoing submission? So, bhakti life means ongoing submission. It begins, it's in the middle, it's in the end, and then there's no end. It continues and continues. Sharanagati knows no limit. Bhakti knows no limit. If one is to go forward in bhakti life, it's ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. And it can be discouraging. It's ongoing and ongoing. And at the same time, it's encouraging because those who have achieved that stage of unalloyed love for Krishna are very kind, and they're encouraging us to continue and continue and continue. Let's take japa. Who would like to raise their hand and say, my japa is flawless? Who can say that? Who wants to be so foolish and say that? Of course, if one actually has achieved that, one could be entitled to say that, but one wouldn't say it because of humility. But the reality is, it's not just humility, it's just reality. We're not there yet. And is it a matter of time? After X amount of time, perfection and chanting? I was attending a japa retreat one time. It was in Ojai, California. It was arranged by a nice disciple of Bhakti Tirtha Swami named Purusha Sukta. And he's presently in New York City, along with his good wife, Divyambar. She runs the restaurant. After 6 people couldn't make it work, she made it work. She's really good. So, Purusha Sukta heard from his spiritual master, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, that he felt it's really important for our senior devotees to come together and associate together, because so many times our senior devotees are engaged in preaching or outreach or giving association to more neophyte persons. And as a result, because of that, they don't get much chance to come together. I don't know if any of you have been following what's going on with Kadamba Kanana Swami, but it's awesome. So many senior devotees are coming and giving their association, and one after the next, after the next, after the next. And he's on his way out, so who knows what strength he has or anything. But sadhu sangha, and right to the end. Anyway, back to this Ojai Japa retreat. So he specifically extended, Purusha Sukta, specifically extended invitations to, in his estimation, who were some senior devotees. It would be nice if they could get together. It was a very beautiful place. It was way up on a mountain, overseeing the mountain, the big cliff over the mountainside, and over there was the sea, and the scenery is fantastic. It was a Buddhist temple, so it was kind of like a neutral place and clean. And one of the persons that was there was Giriraj Maharaj, because he doesn't live so far away from Ojai. And he shared something with us that I want to share with you about perfecting chanting. And this is to the best of my memory. He was once with Srila Prabhupada early in the morning, after Mangalarti, before the morning walk, and he was sitting with Prabhupada up in Prabhupada's quarters up on the top floor, one of the towers. And he was at Prabhupada's feet, and Prabhupada was at his desk. It was just the two of them in the room chanting japa together. And Giriraj Maharaj shared, I was thinking, it can't get any better than this. Here I am chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the means of achieving the perfection of life in this age, with my spiritual master who has achieved perfection in this life through that same process. Can't get any better than this. Giriraj Maharaj, he massages a topic from different angles. And then suddenly, Prabhupada stopped chanting. So he stopped chanting, looked at Prabhupada. Prabhupada lifted his beads out of his bead bag, held them up in the air, put them back in his bead bag, looked at Giriraj Maharaj, and said, it took me 30 years to perfect my chanting. As if, it took him 30 years to perfect his chanting. And Giriraj Maharaj said, at that time I was thinking, 30 years. And now some 40 years later, I'm wishing, how long before I can perfect my chanting? So it's not a matter of punching the clock. The bhakti process is not mechanical, it's devotional. And it's an ongoing submission. And however much we try, it's not enough. And that can be discouraging. So it's first of all, we have to try consistently, and then awaiting mercy. And if the mercy doesn't seem to be flowing in a way that you feel that the mercy should be flowing, it can be discouraging. Or you can try to increase your effort, but it's still dependent upon Krishna's mercy. So whenever that mercy meets a sincere effort, then there's some experience by Krishna's mercy. And it's all in Krishna's hand. Ultimately, it's all in Krishna's hand. So it's our business to make ourselves eligible. So now back to this verse, what's Prahlad's eligibility? He's a pure devotee. And the Supreme Lord has come. And the Supreme Lord protected him. Of course, it was fulfilling one of the Supreme Lord's missions. And that was Vinashaya Chaduskritam. Ranikashipu and the rest of his entourage were finished, which was compliments of Prahlad Maharaj and Lord Nrsingadev reciprocating. But that's not the only reason. It's giving his loving association to Prahlad. So it's the most wonderful section. And then the teachings of pure devotion. It's inspiring. And it's important. As Prabhupada is putting in the purport, Lord Chaitanya taught us how to request benediction. There are texts that describe standard prayers. In standard prayers found in the Bhagavatam and elsewhere, there's pranipat, there's some kind of submission, namaha, there's glorification, and commonly there's a request. Those three standard elements with embellishments. So supposing one understands I shouldn't ask for anything because that means selfish. So I shouldn't ask for anything. So that Prahlad is in that position. That's what he said in previous verse. Please don't ask me to ask for something. That's not. That would be the mentality of a merchant. But if you insist, then please take away material desires. So take away material desires means one. There's still a spiritual desire. That's an important Sankhya distinction. There's matter and there's spirit. So desire isn't the problem. Materialistic desire is the problem. And when materialistic desire is taken away, the soul still has desire because we're part of the Supreme who has desire. But then what's that pure desire? To be engaged in his service. Mama janmani jamanishri bhavatad bhaktir ahaituki toyi. Hetu means cause. And ahaituki, without cause, is what? It's love. To do something when there's no cause, then you do nothing. But if it's a transcendental cause, then there's no material cause. So hetu in this case means no material cause. No material cause doesn't negate spiritual cause. And thus, this is the foundation of a distinction between personalism and impersonalism. So naturally, Prabhupada puts his boxing gloves on and does his thing. Lets him have it. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Satarine. Just like we heard yesterday, even this nice glorification of Jiva Goswami did the same thing. As we heard in his life, Jiva Goswami spent some number of years, 8 to 10 years, whatever it was, studying under Madhusudana Vachaspati, learning, of all things, the 6 atheistic doctrines. So, and with that, the refutation position of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, because although Madhusudana Vachaspati was living in Benares, why was he living in Benares if he's a great devotee? To give that association to Jiva Goswami. And for that reason, and others, but for that reason, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sent him there, and certainly it served a great purpose, because Jiva Goswami had the same set of boxing gloves. And Srila Prabhupada learned boxing art from Jiva Goswami. And, the spirit, of course, from his spiritual master as well, who did quite similar refutation of impersonalism and voidism. But strong, again and again and again. Why? Because there's such tendency. There's the materialistic tendency, and then there's the nihilistic tendency, or the nirvana tendency. And it goes by different names in different schools of thought, using different labels. But it's, wanting free from material existence. Nirvana, cessation of material existence. Nihilism. Because if you cease material existence, supposing you're a Buddhist, You don't know that you're a soul because you rejected the Vedas. He doesn't he doesn't say there's no such thing. There's probably brands of Buddhism that say that, but he didn't say that. He didn't say there was and didn't say there wasn't. So if you negate the material side and you don't have an identity that's on the spiritual side, then it's shunyavadi. Just this morning I was hearing Prabhupada give this interesting example. A Bhagavatam class in Bombay on Canto 3, Chapter 25. Kapila Dev's teachings. And he gave the example of dismantling a house. It sounded very similar to one of the verses from Ishopanishad. First it was the air goes back to the totality of air, the earth goes back to the totality of earth, the fire goes back to the totality of fire, and what do you have left? Nothing. Then he gave the example of dismantling a house. So the doors go over there, and the bricks go over there, and the windows go over there, and there's nothing left. And that's Buddhism. There's nothing left. You take away is negation, 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 negation. There's nothing left. If you're an impersonalist, it's that there's a soul, you're Brahman, you're God. And if you're a Buddhist, you're nothing. So there is some distinction, but it's a covered way of saying the same thing, as it's said specifically by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And our acharyas following Lord Chaitanya were strong. Of course, circumstance specific, but strong. And here it is again, right in this purport. That's why I'm speaking about it. So saying he doesn't want materialistic desire doesn't mean he doesn't want desire, because there's no such thing. Desirelessness means no material desire, but desire is concomitant with the soul, because the Supreme Soul has desire, and we're part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, and so there's desire. So what do you do about desire? Because it's a problem. You request Lord Nrsingadev to take away with his sharp claws. It's one of the 5th canto prayers of what's the Harivarsha. When describing the Vedic cosmology in Harivarsha, there's this nice prayer given by Prahlad specifically, with your sharp claws and nails, rip from my heart all materialistic desires. Not verbatim, but that's the indication. So it's very consistent, his teaching, pure devotion, and ongoing submission, so that purity can be maintained. No complacency, Prabhus. Don't take a vacation from Krishna consciousness. You can undergo a period of time where you may be less involved in worldly affairs, but that just means increasing, dialing up your spiritual activity, and then you may get back to your other everyday activities. But even those everyday activities, again, it's not balancing, it's dedicating those things unto Krishna's service, resting upon strong sadhana, and that means a heart that's become cleansed. Chaita Darpana Marjanam. So there's some thoughts on verse number, what's 7? Yeah, 7.10.7. See if there's some discussion. Yeah.
Prabhupada says that if you chant your 16 rounds and follow the regulative principles, he'll take us back to the spiritual world. And Rupa Goswami's standards are much higher in the sense that you have to follow the 5 limbs of bhakti. How do you reconcile the two?
It's just, you have to unpack what Prabhupada said. And you unpack what Prabhupada said. He's not a non-follower of Rupa Goswami. To do what Prabhupada said, you follow Rupa Goswami. It's not in the statement, simply this, simply that. So, in other words, two things. The process is not mechanical, not simply this, simply that, and presto. And then the other point is to say simply this, simply that. You unpack it to do simply this, simply that. Then other things come out of those statements. You unpack the statements and expand on those statements, or then you can pack it back up and just say those simple things. That's my answer. You have a different answer?
So if I understand that, what you're saying, Maharaj, is that you cannot sincerely chant unless you do the other things.
Yeah, to fulfill this instruction, here's some requirements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever it is. And then you put the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back into the instruction, and then you can fulfill the instruction.
Okay.
It's implicit rather than explicit.
Right. And the second question was, you mentioned that Prahlad Maharaj was sent to preach and the message.
It's the verse number 3 in this chapter. He says, "You sent me here."
Yeah. So my question was, what exactly is the position of Prahlad Maharaj? Do
What
we
exactly
know
is the what?
his position?
Vaikunthavasi.
That's it? He's not any of the, like we know our acharyas are like Manjaris or...
He's a Vaikunthavasi.
Okay.
That's my understanding. And I mentioned this yesterday evening in relation to Hari Bhakti Vilas and how it was composed. So there are different yuga cycles, and there are different manifestations of Prahlad, and one of them is mentioned in Hari Bhakti Vilas, where from the Matsya Purana, Lord Matsya, speaking to Vaivasvata Manu, explains that in his previous life, Prahlad was a Brahmana. He gives his name, Vasudev, gives his father's name, Vasu Sharma, and he was the one of 10 sons or something like that, and he had become fallen by association with a prostitute. So, etc., etc. So that's a very different description than the Supreme Lord sent him from Vaikuntha. But he's a Vaikunthavasi. That's the kind of love that he has. Lord Nrsingadev has his own Vaikuntha planet. He is a devotee of Lord Nrsingadev, and he goes to Lord Nrsingadev. And that's his position. He's a Vaikunthavasi. Anything else? Yes? Hare Krishna. Thanks all of you for coming. It's like, this is interesting. Come out to the suburbs, and so many people come for morning class.
Yes, Maharaj. So,
You all have jobs and stuff you have got to do, but here you are. It's nice. It's a compliment, by the way.
thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, coincidentally, I was reading this verse a couple of days back, and then your discussions and reflections, it complemented it in so much of detail. So, Maharaj, I liked the point you mentioned about that there is no balance; it's alignment. And
That's my take. Somebody else can go off and off.
no, Maharaj, I liked it so much, and especially you quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita Jagdanand Pandit's reference that if you do this, then you may fall in the river. And so Maharaj, in our daily life, right, I see myself that yes, I'm still, and like always use this, okay, balance, 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 due to being in Grasta life with 2 kids and all, right? So especially
There are
when
lots of peas in that pod, by the way. Go ahead.
so this stage is what our acharyas are telling us, that this is the stage we need to reach, right? That all our desire, all our material desires should go away.
Material desire, yes.
Yes. So Maharaj,
Material desire means seeing it separate, and I'm the enjoyer of that separate. So let that be taken. Doesn't mean take away my family, or take away my job, or take away my everything. It's the seeing those things separate and being the enjoyers of those things. And I'm the maintainer of my family, because so I have to work like a donkey, and because otherwise I can't maintain my family. Go ahead.
yes, Maharaj. No, I think some part of the answer you already gave. So next question, like next part of the question was especially with the kids, right? So I have a teenager son. He has
Congratulations.
influence, and then he has all these demands, right? So is it, how do you recommend, is it good to restrict them, or
Parenting question. My answer is it depends. And then I'll unpack that one. There's you as a parent, in this case, the parent of a teenager, and then there's the teenager. And everything depends upon the nature of each. And there's principles that apply regardless of, the personality type or the relationship. Prabhupada gave a very simple formula. I mean, the application of the formula is where it gets to be delicate and so forth. When a child is, it's 3 stages. There's more than 3, but when a child is an infant, as long as they're not harming themselves, they can do whatever, or harming another, they can do whatever. When the bell rings and they turn 5, then comes discipline. Then you start, to restrict. But the restriction, his explanation, should be out of love, not I'm big, you're small, so you do what I say because I'm big and you're small. And I'm smarter, and you do what I say because I'm smarter. So it's discipline where there's restriction, and the essence of that restriction should be where the child understands, the dependent understands. This is for disciples as well. The dependent understands the place that this restriction is coming from is a place of love. So the essence is love, and there's necessity, purpose-wise, for some restriction, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's imparting values and helping a dependent understand this can be painful. Don't put your hand in fire, etc. Then comes the more difficult one. Whatever has happened between 5 and 12 or 13, that's filling up the relationship, first of all, and then the moral compass or character, or however you want it, whatever language one likes to use. And that's the formative time. And then the bell rings. And it's very uncomfortable for the dependent who's transitioning between being dependent and independent. Prabhupada's comment, he didn't go into all that. He just said, from that point forward, the dynamic must change. It becomes friend. And how do friends talk to, this is me elaborating, how do friends talk to one another? They don't instruct one another. So the parent of a teen should ideally have a relationship where the teen can say anything about anything. And the parent doesn't freak out saying, oh God, you did that. Or, some judgment. But like a friend might say to another friend, oh really? Wow. How did you feel when that happened? And then what did you do? Or what did you say? It's just like questions and questions and questions and questions. And you can guide through questions. But as a friend, now the superior friend, the friend that has wisdom and has affection for his friend, his son or daughter, but what the parent wants is an open channel, and the channel is going to close quickly if there's some judgmentalism, like knee-jerk, it just reflex, it just close. And then they don't share everything, or they don't share anything. So for there to be an ongoing, this is a principle, and then there's how do you apply the principle depends. The particular individual, the child, or the dependent, and the parent, and their their relationship and their sensibilities and their needs and stuff. Because what's going to happen as they become more independent and less dependent, they're going to make their own decisions and may make decisions simply because you shut them down, and out of rebelliousness or wishing to assert unfettered independence to do it anyways in defiance. Now it depends on the personality, it depends on the relationship, but sometimes that happens. And then then they have to learn their lessons. So the building of character is in the formative years. And then when teenage comes, it's, massaging that character that's there through a relationship that's like a friend. Not easy. I don't have children, but I have a lot of children. And so I do all of this. Although I'm not the biological parent of young people. And it's very helpful. It's not in all cases, but it's very helpful when there's disclosure. And there's not always disclosure. Some young people just shut down. And as far as communicating what's going on, you can tell something's going on, but they don't communicate, and you can't pry it out of them. It's where the relationship is wholesome, then they'll share some things, and then there's the limit. And so anyway, it's just parenting is because you don't stop caring. It's just the dynamic of the exchange changes. But I'd rather not go on the parenting topic because it's endless, from my experience. So no more parenting questions, please. Huh?
Many years back in New Vrindavan, I remember I attended a session with
Really? Look at me.
you still have those that package that you put together, slides and everything. That you share that.
I don't remember. I honestly, I can look, but I don't remember. My computer doesn't forget, but I do.
It was many years back. I personally attended it during the
I'll look, and if I have it, I'll share it. But I doubt it, because I don't remember seeing it. But if I have it, I'll share it.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Anything else besides parenting?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. This question is about complacency. I want to know what really it means. Because sometimes when we perform devotional service, we feel a sense of happiness. I don't know how to explain that. It's a sort of a satisfaction.
It's sort of a what?
A satisfaction.
Okay.
So is that considered being complacent?
No,
Okay.
it's a relationship. Complacency is you kind of step back from the relationship. I'm okay, you're okay. See you later, Krishna.
Mm.
That's complacency. Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses the language, at least it's translated into English, slackening in submission. Now he sometimes it's provided one doesn't make offense, but also sometimes provided one doesn't slacken in one's submission. It's a relationship. So one is an offense and the other is just checking out. Slackening in submission.
Okay.
So therefore, submission is not to be slackened. So if you're experiencing some happiness, doesn't guarantee you're going to slacken.
Mm.
Somebody may become even more encouraged, but they may be encouraged in the wrong way also. I'm good, or I'm special, or something.
Mm.
Pride.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj.
Anything else? Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.